Today, some of the thrift stores around here are having a 50% off for back to school. So I came here with Benji to see what we can find. I'm gonna look through the shoes and the jeans section. He's gonna be recording me along the way. I'll be explaining what I'm getting and what I'm leaving behind and just kind of going over my thought process behind it all. It is 9:20 right now, so we are a little bit late. I like to get here when they open, but that hardly ever happens. Still, I'm pretty sure we'll find some great stuff. Let's go see. If you've been watching some of my most recent videos, you've heard me talk about me switching up my business model. Well, that's still a work in progress right now, but in this video, you are going to see a little bit of what that's looking like for me. I'll be showing you the kinds of items I don't pick up anymore, what I'm grabbing instead, and most importantly, you'll see comps for most items on the screen, and you'll also see screenshots of the things that have already sold. Everything in the store was 50% off this day, so keep that in mind as I'm showing you the price tags on these things. These shoes right here were by the brand Soft, which used to be a bread and butter brand for me, and I still do pick it up, but I am a lot more picky with it than I used to be. I did put these shoes in the cart to check later, but in the end I left them behind just because summer is almost over and that is not a style that most buyers are looking for. So it had a very high potential of sitting for me until next summer. If you watch my other sourcing videos or thrift hauls, then you already know the deal with A New Day. For me, it is a brand that I have been sourcing up until now when I find it in excellent condition and very cheap compared to other brands. The selling price for these is on the lower end. They usually go for anywhere from $15 to $20, but A New Day is very in tune with what's trending at the moment. So a lot of their shoes do end up flipping really quick. These were a nice style and they were in great condition, but it did break that very cheap rule for me, so I left them behind in the end. These heeled sandals right here with the grommet details were by a brand called Comfort View. This is another brand that I have been getting up until now. I loved picking it up when they were in wide widths, and if like the A New Day brand, they were very cheap and in like new condition. If all of those things were in line, they did flip pretty quickly, but these don't make sense for me anymore profit wise because my overhead costs have increased a little bit, so now I'm just walking right past them. These other chunky block heel sandals were by the brand Naturalizer, but they were the old Naturalizer tag and they were priced at $6.50, which is way too much for that old style in that old tag too. Like A New Day, Madden Girl makes lots of styles that appeal to the younger generation, so I do pick up that brand sometimes, but these had too much wear all over the cork wedge, so I put them right back. One of the first things I do with heels is always check the heel caps. I want all of those grooves to be there and pretty much intact. If it's way too smooth, I don't get them. These UGG heels weren't terrible, but the price was, so I put them back. Dream Pairs is the exact same deal as with A New Day. The same rules apply. They have to be very cheap in like new condition, a trendy style. These were cute, but way too expensive at $7.50. $3 to $4 would have been better for a heel like this. These sandals were by the brand Abeo, if I'm even saying that right. The first handful of shoes that I picked up by this brand did really well for me. From there, they just sat forever, so I'm leaving them behind now, or at the very least checking very thorough comps. These sandals were way too plain. They weren't even worth looking up comps. These all over cork wedge sandals by Aerosoles were their new logo. Some shoes with that new tag can do well, but these weren't interesting enough. They were way too plain, nothing unique about them to me. There was lots of dream pairs this day. These strappy minimalist sandals were nice, and after a quick wipe they would have looked in like new condition. They were priced at $5, which is a little bit above what I like to pay for these. I was still considering them, but something I have to keep reminding myself right now as I'm sourcing is that summer is almost over. So the sandals that I do get have to be hard hitters. They have to have lots of good selling points so that they have a chance to sell before summer's officially over, or so they have the potential to sell even if we're in fall. These sandals weren't unique enough, so I put them back. Bagley Mishka is a brand that makes dressy and fancy bridal style shoes. They do sell for a whole bunch on their site, but most styles that I see at the thrift store, when I check them out on the reselling sites, I see they don't go for that much, or the sell-through rate is very slow. These red pointed shoes with the buckles were very trendy looking. I saw them in a few fashion videos that I watched, but these were a cheap Amazon brand. I don't know that for sure. That's just the label I put on shoes when they look plain on the inside, and on the outside they don't have any sort of tag or anything, and most of the time they have weird sizing, like in weird numbers. When I see shoes like that, I don't even get them, not even based on style, not even if they're 50 cents or $1. These here were cute sandals, lace-up style. They were by Louis Setzier, which is a brand I used to get that would sell really quick for me and for decent amounts. Now it sits so long, I hardly ever pick it up anymore. These Kohan wedge office style pumps were only $6.50, which is not bad. I feel like I could have flipped these for about $25 or so, but when I checked them out, it just seemed like they were too flimsy, not sturdy enough, so I didn't get those either. Steve Madden platform pumps can do well sometimes. These were a little bit iffy to me because the bottom sole wasn't in the best of condition, but I felt like it was good enough. The chunky style was good enough too. It had the ankle strap. I wasn't finding too many things that day, so I just went ahead and got those. Joseph Siebel shoes can do well sometimes. I always like looking into these when I find them, but these sneakers had too much wear, so I put those back. Liz Claiborne is again another brand that I pick up still sometimes, but I apply very strict rules to it. They need to be cheap and like new condition and a desirable style. These did pass the condition test, the style test, and the price was a bit questionable. I like picking them up at about $3 to $4. These were $6.50, but again, because I wasn't finding enough inventory this day, I brought them. All of these shoes I'm showing right here, the pink platform dream pair sandals, the Sam Edelman square toe red sandals, the Italian shoemaker sandals with the stones, and then the sandals by the brand Soft that I put in the cart earlier. All of those I didn't get either because they weren't unique enough to buy at the tail end of summer, or they were just way too expensive. These pointed toe white Liz Claiborne boots were only $5, but they didn't pass the condition test. They had black marks on the side, and there wasn't too many exciting features about them, so I put them back. These boots were by the brand Karen Scott, which does not sell for much, so I never ever picked that one up. I did pick up some shoes on this trip just based on style, but I did also check comps on a lot of things more than I have before. I've always hated checking comps, mainly because it's just so time consuming, but now I've come to realize and accept that getting better at checking comps is absolutely necessary if I ever want to break out of this 5 to 6K a month in sales plateau that I'm in right now. Since this trip that you're watching right now, I have gone sourcing a few more times and I am doing a lot better. Before, I only checked comps on maybe about 10% of the items that I picked up. My sourcing has always, for the most part, been heavily based on style, on research, and just past experience. In the upcoming videos, I will be sharing more about this and other things I'm switching up in my business and why. I'm also thinking of doing a whole video just on comping. If that's something you'd be interested in, let me know in the comments so I can push that video up the list. I've been telling y'all these sandals by Madden Girl or Madden NYC or even just Steve Madden, they have the chunky block heel and a lug sole. For some reason, they've been selling a lot for me this summer. I did end up getting these, but looking back, I should have probably applied that end of summer logic because these were priced at $8.50, which is a bit expensive for Madden NYC. But hopefully, since they've been doing well for me all summer, they do have a chance to sell and that I don't end up being stuck with them till next summer. I wanted to look up these Adidas sandals. They looked trendy to me. They were padded and they looked a bit quilted. I thought they could be worth something. I did look them up. It was nothing. I put those back in the end. These Michael Kors driving loafers were really nice. Most of the shoes by this brand don't sell for that much online, but since these were driving loafers, I thought they had the potential of doing well. But after looking over them more closely, I did see some peeling in the footbed. So for $12.50, that was a no. Now these Rocket Dog chunky slides were a bit more exciting. This brand doesn't flip for high dollars and the comps did show that, but the sell-through rate was decent and I know these do well on Depop too. They were only $2.50, so that left me with some room for profit. In the end, they sold on eBay in just a few days for $29. These Louis Vuitton heels were priced at $130, half off. The footbed was coming off. They seemed fake to me, so I did not even bother looking into those. Here's this brand called Patina. I did find it recently for the first time. I'm pretty sure it was at this exact store too. The other shoes were some brown leather Mary Jane sandals. Those sold on Poshmark for $72. So when I came across these sneakers, I did want to look up comps. In the end, I didn't, just because they were way too dirty. I left them behind without even checking comps. I do like picking up cycling shoes. If they look high quality enough, I at least check comps on them. But after looking into these, I realized that I already have a couple of them in my closet right now. They aren't getting that much attention, so I left these behind in the end. These platform Nike shoes caught my attention. They were $17.50. I thought they had the potential of doing well anyway at that high price, but after looking through comps on eBay, I saw that the sell-through rate and the sale price was way too low. Same thing with these Cole Haan shoes. They were $12.50, but most of them were selling for about $25 online. After fees, that profit wouldn't be worth it, so I also left those behind. These white and black canvas style shoes were by Hunter. They are like a Hunter Target collab. They were priced at $10. I was going to look them up, but in the end I didn't bother because I have looked up a few of these in different colors in the past. They never checked out, so hopefully I didn't leave something good behind with those. These Steve Madden boots were very nice. They had the chunky block heel. They were a Chelsea style and had a platform. I thought all of those factors were good enough to pick these up at $6.50. I have them listed already and they have been getting a lot of attention, and I have been getting a few offers on Poshmark and Depop, but they were too low. They were offering like $15, $16. I'm trying to get at least $25 for them, but hopefully more. These Mary Jane shoes were by a brand called JBU. This style used to perform really well for me, but now I never pick up this brand. It has to be something really special in order for me to give it a chance. These Converse were $10. This was a very nice color. I would have considered these shoes if they were in near perfect condition and a little bit cheaper, but because Converse in this more simple style don't sell for that much, maybe for like $25 to $28, I didn't get those. The screenshots I'm showing you of comps on the screen are from the eBay's research tool, which you can find on the app under the selling tab. I've done a few videos on this tool already where I explain how to use it for comping and how to use it to price your items too. I'll link those videos in the description if you want a full breakdown of it. But here's what I want to make clear right here before moving on with this video. The sell-through rate percent that you see on the eBay app is not calculated the same way I and most other resellers comp using the regular eBay search tab. With the research tool, eBay pulls in a lot more data. They take into consideration solds, active listings, and even unsold items versus the common method that most of us use where we just compare active versus solds to come up with the sell-through rate percent. So the sell-through rate percent you see on the app is going to look a lot different sometimes than what you're used to if you always do just active versus sold and that's it. So don't be shocked if the numbers you see on the eBay site don't match up with what you see using the research tool on the eBay app. These Vans looked pretty interesting. They weren't their normal, just flat all over canvas style shoes. The color block situation, they were a thicker style, chunky, more trendy looking. So I was considering these, but I didn't find a price anywhere, and this store is very strict with that. If something doesn't have a price, they aren't going to sell it to you. No questions asked. These Converse, like the others, were also $10, but nothing special about them, so I left those behind. These blue shoes were by a brand called Astral. I've never picked up this brand before, but they seemed high quality enough to at least check out comps. Pre-owned, this style had a super high sell-through rate of 88%, and sure enough, they sold within 2 days for $36. These Adidas shoes looked interesting to me at first. They looked retro-ish. They had a platform, but the white canvas was way too dirty, so I didn't get those. These Converse were more interesting than the other plain ones. They had a Velcro strap. Red and white, I think, is one of the most popular colors with this style in this brand, but in the end they didn't pass the condition test, so I didn't get those. I did pick up these New Balance sneakers though. They were priced at $12.50, but they had no insoles. My plan was to buy them anyway and get some cheap insoles off of Amazon before I list them. They were in perfect condition otherwise, so that's why I did that. But in the end, I never got the insoles. I just listed them as is instead, and they haven't sold, and they're not getting that much attention either. The Resell sneakers were $7.50. The condition was great, but most Resell sneakers don't do good, so I didn't even bother looking these up. These Hoka shoes here were $17.50. These also had a missing insole. One of the shoes didn't have them. Maybe I could have made that work, but I left those behind too. These other New Balance shoes did have the insoles, but these looked like an outdated style, so I didn't give those a chance either. I didn't even look those up. So that was it for the shoe section. Now let's move on to the jeans. These jeans by a brand called Hilera were the first ones I did pick up in this section. Comps look decent enough to me. I have them listed right now for $29. My plan is to have them sell for $20. I do have a few watchers on eBay on them so far, but other than that, nothing. I'm counting those as a bad pickup. The thing with jeans I've noticed so far is that I have to go through a lot more stuff just to find a few good items. That's one of the reasons it was so frustrating for me when I first started picking them up again. But now I'm getting a lot faster because I already know a bunch of brands that I don't need to comp anymore. I've done it enough times and they didn't check out, so now I don't have to take the time to do it again. I'm also getting a lot better at spotting cheap jean brands a lot faster, like the Sheins and the No Boundaries. I can oftentimes just feel them or look at them with a quick glance to know not to even bother looking at those any further, and that saves me a ton of time. I don't have to dig for tags and look for things on my app as much as before. So I am making progress in this department, and once I have a good handle on jeans, my plan is to add another category, maybe sweaters like some of y'all suggested in my most recent thrift haul. These jeans were by the brand 7 for All Mankind. I come across a ton of these every time I go through the jeans section. So far, I think I've only picked up one pair. It was a super flare jean. It ended up selling on eBay for $20. So maybe I'll continue considering super flare 7 for All Mankind jeans, or if I find their dojo jeans, of course, I will pick those up if they are at a good price. But for the most part, I'm skipping right over anything that is 7 for All Mankind right now. Madewell Skinny Styles is one that I don't even bother checking comps for anymore, because every time I do, it comes back that they have a super slow sell-through rate. I did get these Ariat jeans though. They were men's and they had the thick white stitching, so that's why I thought these could do well. They ended up selling on eBay in just 2 days, but for a very low price. I took an offer of $25 because sales have been slow. After fees and my cost of goods, my final profit was only $10, which is not terrible, but I was hoping for a little bit more for those jeans. These Lawman Western jeans looked promising. They were a bit faded, which is not a deal breaker with Western jeans, but they also did have missing rhinestones. On top of that, after I looked them up, I saw that they had a low sell-through rate on eBay, so those didn't make the cut. Someone mentioned to me in a past video that super ripped jeans is a thing right now. I've came across a few, like this one right here by Judy Blue and by other brands, but I haven't made the jump and I haven't picked up any. I just don't feel too confident picking up super ripped jeans. Let me know in the comments, do super ripped jeans do well for y'all? Another thing I heard someone mention, I think it was in a YouTube video I was watching, was that Citizens of Humanity jeans do well. I've comped a few and nothing has checked out. Even the flare styles on the eBay research tool on the app, they always come back as a slow sell-through rate. These black ones were only $4.50, but when I looked them up, they didn't seem good, so I didn't get those. Those light blue jeans were by the brand Hollister, but those have always done terrible for me. I've come across so many every time I go, but I always pass right by them. Unlike the hundreds of other Madewell jeans I come across, these here were bootcut style and not skinny. They were priced at $4.50, so I decided they were worth at least checking comps. But nope, they were still terrible, just like the skinny styles, so I left them behind too. These Citizens of Humanity jeans were also priced at $4.50. These looked a little bit more straight leg, but because every time I look up this brand, it comes back as bad, I didn't even bother with these. One question I get a lot when I talk about checking comps with the research tool is what sell-through rate is good when you're comping with it. Obviously, the higher the better, but it's really going to depend on how long you're willing to sit on items. I've been shifting from sourcing mostly based on style to focusing more on high sell-through rate. I'm still learning and getting better with this new approach. But for me right now, my guide is about a 25% sell-through rate is good enough to pick up. 30 to 40% sell-through rate on the app is a solid pickup. 50% is awesome. And 60% plus sell-through rate on the app is a definite yes. If the selling price also makes sense, I do pick those up. That's my logic right now. It may change as I get better with comping, but that seems to be working out okay for me. The Spank gray pants were skinny, but I thought because they were the cargo style, they could be worth something. But no, sell-through rate for Spanks is horrible, even on these cargos. Here's some more Citizen of Humanity jeans. The style tag inside said they were the low-rise skinny. So that's all I needed to know. Even at $3, they are not worth picking up, and they're not even worth taking the time to look up the comps. These Star jeans looked very Depop-y to me. The brand was called Romwe, Romwe, which I think is a cheap online China type shop. I did consider them for a bit, but in the end I decided not to get them. These cinch jeans looked very promising. I looked them up by the style name that it said inside the jeans on the eBay app. I found two, but maybe I should have just picked up one and tested it out first because they aren't getting that many likes or watchers so far, even though the comps look decent on the eBay app, but they have only been listed for a month, so we'll see how these turn out. These Ralph Lauren jeans were a cream color and felt like a flannel type material. I did get them because they were only $5 and they were new with tags, but I do regret that now because there's really nothing special about them. But hopefully they do end up selling for me as we get closer to the cold weather. That wasn't that great. We did not find that many shoes and even that many jeans. I only got 11 items and I spent a total of $82. My final cost of goods is $7.53 per item, which I thought would be a little bit less since I didn't get anything that was too expensive. Usually we can just go to 2 stores and then head home. I think today we are going to have to go to 3 since we didn't find much. We'll see how the next one goes, but this is usually the case when we're transitioning from one season to another. Summer is about to be over like in a month and a half, so right around this time stores stop putting out so much inventory and they wait to put out the in-season inventory until it actually starts. Every year this is an issue for me, that around this time it starts slowing down and I don't find as much inventory as I need or as I want. But I'm just going to have to ride this wave until we get to around September when things should start kicking off. But we're going to go ahead and head to this next store and I'll see y'all there to see what we find. Papilio is a Birkenstock brand that makes shoes more for the younger generation. At least that's what I remember seeing when I looked them up. That brand does good for me sometimes. These shoes could have worked. They were only $4.50, but they did have some wear along the trim, so I left them behind in the end. Most of the time, Crocs that are chunky like these here that have some sort of platform do really well. I don't know why I left these behind because these do have good qualities. They were only $5 and I researched comps just now, and what I got back is that these could possibly sell for $28 and the sell-through rate is 90%, which is great. It did take me a few times to come up with the correct search terms to find that data, so maybe that's what happened at the store. I couldn't find any precise listings in this style, so I left them behind. I must have been searching it up with the exact style name. Sometimes if you do that, you get back great results. Sometimes you get back nothing and you have to try other search terms. Again, this is a big learning process for me. I was going to get these Fit Flop sandals because they were priced at $4.50, which is a great price. They were in overall great condition, but then I looked at the inside lining. It seemed way too dirty, so I put those back. Got excited with these sandals. They remind me of the Steve Madden slinky Y2K sandals. They were only priced at $3.50. I did put them in my cart to think about it, but in the end I left them behind because although it is a great style, the brand was not good enough. Like Badgley Mishka brand that I mentioned earlier at the previous store, this Nina brand sells expensive formal shoes, but I've looked up a few styles before. They never seem to sell for much on the reselling marketplace. These also had some wear on the sole, so I didn't bother looking these up either. Easy Street is another brand that I've been picking up, kind of like Liz Claiborne, Nine West, A New Day, all of those cheaper brands. I like picking this one up if they are cheap and in like new condition. These did have both of those things going for it. There was no wear anywhere. They were a pretty black patent color, office style shoes with the low heel usually do well for me. So although I don't expect a huge profit from those, I did pick those up. Same with these A New Day Kitten slingback heels. They were like new. They were only $3.50 and they were that raffia material that is doing pretty well right now. These UGG espadrille wedge shoes were cute, but the price was way too high to even consider them. These shoes were by a brand called Wanted, which is one that I never pick up. These slides were also by the brand UGG, and again, the price was way too high to even look them up. These classic navy blue Clark mules were in great condition. I like the style a lot, but for $7.50 for an old Clark style, it was not worth it at all. These Wild Fable white patent flats were in great condition, except for a black mark that they had on the side. This brand sells cheap as it is, so that was a definite no. In the past, in the summer, I used to do really well with the Gladiator sandals in all sorts of brands. In this brand called Zodiac, Carlos Santana, Crown Vintage, all of those did really well. But the popularity of Gladiator sandals has gone down a bit and we're phasing out of the hot weather, so I left those behind. Some J. Crew shoes can do good. These were in great condition too. Comps look decent on Poshmark and they did end up selling there. Not for much. I got I think $25 for them, but it was a good of enough profit. These shoes were Lucky brand. They were pretty cheap and in great condition, but the brand is an old tag. That one doesn't usually do well, so I didn't get those in the end. I did get these Kohan loafers though. They were nice. The condition was questionable, but I felt like the style made up for it, and I did need inventory this day, so I got them. In the end, I accepted a $20 offer. I paid $5 for them, so my final profit was $10. Not the best, but they sold quick in 4 days. These sandals looked interesting to me, very grunge, chunky, and trendy. So I put them in my cart to look them up, but they turned out to be a cheap Amazon brand. That was very obvious to me after using the Google image search. The results I got back made me see that right away, but that's not always the case. Google Lens is not a 100% reliable way for making sourcing decisions. Just because you see something show up on Google at a high price, that doesn't mean you should actually get that item or that you'll actually end up getting that amount on the reselling marketplaces. I mainly only use Google image search to learn more about a brand or a style name when I don't know it. But the best way to research something is always going to be to check on the actual sites where you're going to sell your items, because that's going to give you more accurate insights, like what the item is actually listed for, what it has sold for in the past, and how fast it's selling. Google search results aren't going to show you any of that. These silver Converse were also interesting. They were a glittery silver color, but they were priced at $20 and they weren't in the cleanest of condition either. Something I've seen on fashion style videos and also on Google Trends is that satin ballet flats are still doing okay right now. So when I see some at the store, I do like looking into them. These ended up being an unpopular brand that doesn't sell for much online, so I left those behind. Some SAS dad style sandals like these can do well, but these had some pilling along the trim, so I left those behind. These sneakers were by a brand called So Ill, which is something I've never heard of, so I at least wanted to look them up. I found some that had sold for high prices on Poshmark, but none had sold recently, so I left those behind in the end. Journey Collection is a brand I never ever pick up. These LRT's clogs were very pretty in a nice dark brown neutral color too. Comp showed a 30% sell-through rate and a $30 price tag on average, so I did get them. They haven't sold, but this brand usually does well for me, so I'm thinking they're going to sell anytime now. These boots were by Antonio Milani. They had this floral embossing all over, which were very pretty. I have picked up this exact style a couple times in the past, but They sell very slow. These weren't in the best of condition, so I didn't get those. Here's some more dream pairs. These were more for a formal occasion, and with those style shoes, oftentimes with the cheaper brands at least, what you'll see is some yellow glue residue around the edges and around the trim, so always make sure you look out for that on the inside lining. These shoes did have some of that, so I left those behind. I picked up these exact Born style boots about a month ago. They haven't sold, so I didn't get those either. Apparently, Steve Madden also has a brand called Cool Planet. I think Steve Madden is one of the brands in shoes, at least, that has lots and lots of sub-brands. After looking these up, I saw they weren't worth it, so I put them back. Most vintage Havana shoes sell for decent prices, but way too slow. I've picked them up like 3 or 4 times in the past, but as I said, I'm trying to pick up things that sell faster, so I left those behind. These right here must have been the best find of the day. Not like they were going to be a super high sale, but for some reason, I still do get excited when I find retro looking shoes like these. These had so many good things going for them. They were vintage looking by the brand Jessica Simpson, Mary Jane style. They had the wingtip, the brogue detail, and they were in excellent condition. The best part of it all is that they were only $4.50. They screamed Depop to me all around, and sure enough, they sold within 6 days on Depop for $29. These sandals were by the brand Coconuts by Matisse. They also had a lot of unique features. I feel like these could have done well on Depop too. They were chunky, had the croc embossing all over, retro looking, but they were too dirty from the bottom. I sold a few of these Born of Concept minimalist slip-on style loafers. Nothing exciting in terms of profit, but I did get these in the end. Like gladiator sandals, these Guess kind of combat style boots used to do really well for me too, but not as much anymore. Also, they had some peeling and they had them priced at $12, so I didn't get those. These Bates boots were nice. They were sturdy and had a steel toe, but also too expensive. These Ariat boots I thought had some potential. When I looked them up, the sell-through rate was pretty decent. The store wanted $35 for them. The average selling price that I saw on eBay was $60. After fees, that would not be worth it. I like to look up Western style work boots that have the harness like these, but these were an obscure brand and they were too expensive, so I did not take the chance. These Caterpillar work shoes were in good condition, but again, they had missing insoles and they were priced at $15. I thought that was way too much for some simple shoes by this brand like these that had no insoles. Croc collabs is another thing I like looking up when I find them. These were only $6.50, but they were a junior size and comps didn't check out for these. That's it for the shoes. Now let's go back to the jeans. When I go through jeans, I always start with the larger sizes. When I first added jeans back to my sourcing, I didn't even bother looking at smaller sizes. The main reason for that is just to save time. Jeans were already slowing me down a lot, but also I've always stuck to the idea that plus sizes sell better. But now I'm open to the idea that maybe that's not the case anymore. Yes, plus sizes still do really well, maybe even better than smaller sizes, but someone brought up a great point in my most recent thrift haul. The gist of her comment was that smaller sizes are also worth picking up because a lot of Gen Z buyers wear those sizes and they're the ones looking for all of the Y2K and trendy styles that are blowing up right now. On top of that, I do also sell on Depop now, and a huge part of their app users are Gen Z, ages 18 to 24. So I started checking out small sizes too now, and I'm really glad that I did because I've found some great pieces in those sections. Nothing in this particular haul you're seeing right now, but I'll show some in some upcoming what sold videos. I found some nice vintage stuff that sold for a lot of money, so stay tuned for those videos. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss when those go live. NYDJ stands for Not Your Daughter's Jeans. I thought these were a good deal. They were $6.50, new with tags and a plus size, but maybe I was wrong because they haven't sold so far. Years ago, I did okay with Wrangler jeans in this style called Q Baby. I don't think they sell for much now. Either way, all three of these had no size tag, or they did have it, but it was very faded, so I passed on all of those. I am considering putting this hard rule into place for myself. I can only bring things home if I see proof and actual data online on any marketplace that something will sell for profit in at least 90 days, up to 120 days if the profit is big enough. I may edit that rule as I continue to shift my business model, but that's where my mind is headed right now. These Levi's were a style called Dad Utility. The sell-through rate showed it was about 18%. Then I added the words brown jeans and the sell-through rate shot up to 50%. The sale price was still a little bit low, but still I wanted to give them a shot because I thought that maybe I can get close to $30 on Depop or Poshmark instead. I'm glad I took that risk because they did sell on Poshmark for $36. These Levi's jeans looked interesting to me because they were high-rise boot cut. Most of what I see in Levi's is skinny. Also, they were only $5. When I looked them up on Poshmark, the style seemed to be selling quite often, but maybe I should have added the words light wash or distress to get clearer comps because they're still sitting right now and they're not getting that many likes. Years ago, finding a rag and bone piece was an exciting moment, but now their stuff doesn't sell at all. Even with shoes, they sit for a very long time for me, and every time I look up their jeans, the sell-through rate is very low, like 10% or lower. These jeans right here had a very nice form to them, a good silhouette. I liked the vintage look they had to them, but in the end I didn't look them up because I saw they had a yellow or a brownish stain near the pocket in the back. J. Crew jeans is another one that has shown up as selling slow every single time I look them up. I have yet to find a good style in this brand that sells well. These next two pants were by a brand called Peruvian Connection, which I know is a brand that used to do well in sweaters and cardigans and things like that. These were priced at $2.50. Because of the brand and the price, I didn't even look these up. I think these will end up selling as we get closer to the fall because they are more deep fall colors, but still, this is something else I need to stop doing. Picking up things because the brand is really good in my head, in my opinion, and the price is cheap. Old habits die hard, so it's taken me a while to stop doing that out of habit and to start adhering to the rule of look everything up, but eventually I'll get there. I did do the right thing with these jeans though. They were by the brand Harley Davidson. The old me would have picked them up because I would have thought, oh, it's a popular brand and it has chains and distressing and the vibe is trendy enough. I would have thought all of those features were good enough to pick up these jeans because the price was low enough. But I did stop myself and look these up. I couldn't find the exact style using Google image search. I tried the eBay app, searched many different ways, and nothing came up. I did find a few on Poshmark, but it showed me that they last sold last year. So that's all I needed to know to leave them behind, even though they were priced very low. These 7 for All Mankind were a collab with someone named Jenny. So I wanted to look them up just to make sure I wasn't leaving something behind that was worth something, but they weren't. Just like all other 7 for All Mankind jeans, comps were terrible. I found these 2 jeans by a brand called Catch Me. Couldn't find anything on the eBay research tool, so I searched the actual website. I found 2 on the site, some for $17 and some for $793. That right there is a large gap. Other than that, I couldn't find any information anywhere, so I left those behind. These Levi's were the 550 style relaxed fit taper. When I looked them up, the sell-through rate was about 10%. That's pretty bad, so I left those behind. These silver tab Levi's overalls were very cute, and they were pretty cheap too, but they were a kid size. I couldn't find much information about it on eBay, but from what I saw on Poshmark, they seem to sell pretty slow. I don't have comp screenshots for these days jeans. I probably did not look them up and just got them because they were wide leg and cheap, and it's no wonder they're still sitting for me. They wanted $12.50 for these Hugo Boss jeans, but comps showed me I could possibly sell them for $27. That profit is not good, and the sell-through rate was slow too. These Eileen Fisher jeans were priced more decent at the thrift store at $3. But according to eBay, simple jeans by this brand don't sell for a lot, but I could have still made them work since they were priced so low, but I'd be waiting for them to sell for a long time possibly because the sell-through rate was 10%. We made it out of the second store. It was similar to the first store, not much to choose from. They don't really have that many things out. I got a total of 15 items and paid $76, and if I did my math correctly just earlier, that is a total of, I forgot, I think $507 per item. You'll see it on the screen. We did get probably about half shoes and half jeans. I am going to go to a third store, but my phone is dying. It's like at 20%. That store is a lot smaller and a lot more packed most of the time. So what I'm going to do is just go there, do the shopping, and then once I get home, I will show y'all what I got at that store and kind of go over the cost of goods for that store. I'm going to go ahead and show y'all what I got at this third store because it wasn't much. It was the worst one yet. I spent $25 here and got just 4 items, I think. First ones are some really good ones though. These are Rockport heels. They are in excellent condition. For these I paid $6.50, and I think I should be able to get about $30 for these. Then I got these Nike Shox. They're beautiful purple, silver, and white color. They do have a little bit of like slight stains here, but I think I can treat that with baking soda and Dawn dish soap, and it should make it look a little better. But either way, these vintage type Nikes sell with a little bit of wear. They are from 2011 and they were $7.50. And I actually found one more pair. Those were priced up a little more. They were priced at like $25, but I did the dry rot test. Always do that with vintage shoes, where you kind of try to take them apart to make sure everything's still going to be intact for a long period of time. Those came apart once I did that, so I left those behind. These passed, luckily. I got some more Rockport shoes, but these are men's, also in great condition, very lightweight, and that is actually the style name of them, as it says in the insole. These were $7.50. I did quick comps, nothing too thorough, but I should be able to get about $30 for those. And then the fourth and final shoe I got are these Fit Flop. They look almost like new from the bottom, and surprisingly, they were only $2.50. It is a classic brown style leather fit flop. I didn't find any jeans here. The jean racks here were pretty empty, which is very rare, but I think again because we're about to move into fall, they're trying not to put too many items out on the floor, so my options are very limited. But all in all, I think we did kind of okay today. We ended up getting like 30 items in total. Now I'm just going to get home and maybe list a few items and rest for the rest of the day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.